When last we left our heroes, the players had uncovered quite a bit of a mystery in the town of Bullridge. A secret cult to the goddess Lulth was hidden in the town, and they opened the gates for gnolls and demons to come and kill half the town, including the local baron, so that they could set up a baron of their own and rule over the town and continue to cause chaos and weakness within the nation of Haven. But the players have discovered this plot and have brought the information back to the Duke. And so they share with the Duke what has happened, and the Duke has to ponder this. And this, in real life, I had to go to some of my DM friends and say, this is really complicated. What would the cult do in response to maybe being discovered? And what does the Duke do in response to discovering a cult here? And sometimes it can be really helpful to have resources, people that you can talk to figure out what happens next. Maybe it's just talking out loud. Maybe it's hearing somebody else's ideas and go, oh no, that's a really bad idea, and here's why, because I have a better idea. But you needed to hear someone suggest a bad idea first before you could have a good idea. And sometimes it's because you get a genuinely great idea that you would not have thought of otherwise. And so I highly encourage you to bounce ideas off of people. Find D&D Discords and subreddits and friends and YouTube comments and see if you can find people to give you tips and advice and feedback and ideas. It's very, very helpful, and I leaned on this pretty heavily as to what to do next. So the Duke sort of shared with them, thanks, you have been great help, you've proven yourselves trustworthy as knights errant. I am going to give you a diplomat's pouch, and that's an item from MCDM's Strongholds and Followers that basically is a sending stone, but for letters. You can send mail back and forth. That is a really helpful way to communicate long distances. I'm a big fan of that item. And so the Duke can give the players new information or missions, and they can pass them back to the Duke without them having to physically return to Riften. So that is a really convenient way to not tie the players down to every time you do a mission, you have to come back here, and let them continue to roam far and wide in the world. And so he's given them this diplomat's pouch and said, you've earned some rest, but if you could, try to stay in and around Riften for the next 3 or 4 days, and if I have a thing for you to do next, I have to ponder all this information. If I have a thing for you to do next, then I will call on you. If not, you are free to go until I send word. So the players spent a little while doing some downtime, and this was just a chance to give the players, their characters, a way to spend some of their money, check up on some of the projects that they had wanted done, check in on NPCs that they cared about, and in general, spend some time in a town doing things with each other. And so that was a cool role-playing time where the players got to explore some of those different things. And one of the things that they heard about was in to the east there's a small forest, and on the road passing through that forest, a lot of people, they get robbed and they get attacked. Sometimes they go missing. And everybody knows that there is, a group of bandits in there called WLWLOH and his iron knives. And one of the things that I had tested out was giving the players a specific quest and specific reward. And that's a thing that Matt Colville has talked about in his YouTube channel about, on to better rewards. And so I sort of said, hey, if you defeat WLWLOH and his iron knives, however that goes about, if you remove them as a threat from these woods, you're going to get a follower / a hireling. That was somebody they were looking for. They had a wagon that they're trying to get driven. And I was like, you're going to have somebody who will do that. And also you will gain a regional heroism award. And basically that means word of you is spreading through Eastern Haven if you do this. And you will be known before you get to new towns and cities as good guys, as heroes, as people who can be counted on to do the right thing, and people who are competent and capable. And so this was sort of my way of saying, here's a specific tangible reward. You don't have to do anything about WLWLOH and his iron knives, but if you want to, this is a sort of side quest reward for a thing that you might be interested in doing anyway. So the players were like, that's very interesting. That is on our radar, but let's see what the Duke has for us first, and then we will make our decisions as to where we want to go and what we want to do next based on that. So they wait a couple days, and they hear back from the Duke, who's told them that he has sent a platoon, a dispatchment of troops to Bull Ridge to sort of sift out the bad actors there, and hopefully the large show of force will prevent further bloodshed, and if they need to, they can turn the town itself into a prison for the cultists, or whatever they need to do. And so he has sent a large detachment of troops to Bull Ridge to hopefully contain the problem further. And in the meantime, he needs to know what is happening at the wall. So one of the players, early on in their backstory, he received a letter from a captain at the wall saying the commander at the wall is a bad dude. He is, killing people who are trying to be refugees, like orcs who are crossing from the east to the west into Haven. He's just killing these villagers as opposed to letting them in or turning them away. They're refugees. He's a bad guy. Pass it on to the Duke. And so the player, Hildorn, has done this. He passed that information on to the Duke, and the Duke sent some ambassadors to sort of chastise the commander. But now the players have found out that commander is actually part of the cult of Lolth, and so he's more than just a bad guy. He's a very, very evil guy. And so these ambassadors have already gone out to the wall to chastise the commander, and the Duke has said, I need you to go ahead of me to the wall. I need you to, hopefully on the road, you will meet my ambassadors and they can let you know what has happened. But if you don't meet my ambassadors, based on the time in which they left, that means they're probably still at the wall, which means they're probably dead at the wall or in prison at the wall. So if you meet them, figure out what happened at the wall and how the commander responded to being chastised. And if they're not, assume they're dead and it's going to be a hostile situation when you arrive. But I need you to make sure that the commander at the wall is no longer the commander at the wall. He cannot be allowed to retain that position. You need to identify if it's just him acting alone, if he has a small group of loyal people, or if every soldier at the wall, again, Hot Fuzz style, is in on this conspiracy. That is going to change how you interact with the situation, but those are things I need you to figure out. So once again, very actionable verbs that I'm giving my players, things that they can go and tangibly do to figure out what is happening, who's involved, and how far does the problem go. So that was this session. Lots of conversation, lots of role-playing, talking with the Duke and figuring out what to do next, being given a mission, role-playing with each other. Ezra, their NPC, I just think it's fun that he has a crush on Phaedra, and so he tried to make his move, and Phaedra, being completely socially inept, didn't realize that Ezra was making a move, and now Ezra is very crushed, and there's like some fun soap opera relationship-y things happening there. I just like to have that going in the background. It's not a center point of my game, but I'm, the party press ganged this NPC into joining the party. I'm at least going to have a little bit of fun with it, right? So lots of role-playing things, stuff like that, where the players got to really flesh out who their characters are in more interesting, conversational, dynamic kind of ways. So I'm looking forward to the players continuing to get to do things like that as I give them opportunities to roleplay in their downtime, but also in the objectives that they take and how they go about pursuing those missions and adventures. And as it turns out, WLWLOH and his iron knives are on the road on the way to the wall, so the players will get to deal with that problem. They're looking forward to taking care of those bandits. It's been a lot of conversation, negotiation, role-playing over the last few sessions. They're looking forward to rolling initiative and getting to shoot some people and murder some folks. And so it'll be fun to see if they take a diplomatic approach, but I'm willing to bet they're taking an incredibly violent approach. Overall, super fun session, lots of great role-playing, lots of character development, and looking forward to seeing how they tackle new problems. But thank you all for listening, and I'll see you next time.